Welcome back to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Ivana Filip. She is a Croatian-based artist, activist, and researcher. Her practice grows from visual art through multidisciplinary work across performance, live work, video, photography, and mixed media. In the last few years, Ivana's quest has been human to non-human relationships. She also holds a Master's of Economics and Master's of Arts. So let's get started. Hi, Ivana. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Hello, thank you for your invitation. I'm great. And how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So you're joining us from Croatia, which is, we were talking about prior to in the pre-show conversation. So my husband is is Croatian by background. So it's exciting to talk to somebody from Croatia to where we have a connection as a family. And so start out, tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about your company.
Yes, thank you. It was a lovely surprise that you are also connected to Croatia. So I get a hint of it by your last name, which we also discussed earlier. Yes, so my name is Ivana Filip, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist. And actually, 4 years ago, I moved back to Croatia. I lived for several years in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, where I studied fine arts and also worked. And at some point, all things merged and I moved back. So I'm based in south of Croatia, and in October of the last year, I started my small company. Actually, I'm self-employed in Ivana Filip studio. And it's based also in Zagreb, in the capital city, and in Split. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your studio. I thought, it was kind of, we're dog people. We have 3 dogs. I love animals. And your website says, the world is ruled by cats and ants and dogs. So tell us a little bit, what is that all about? Because I like that.
Yes. It's ruled by non-human animals, I would say, or non-humans then, because we are rare. Humans are the rarest species, So as my artistic practice developed, at some point I realized through this analysis that as an artist I do every day. Well, it's a daily practice, that indeed animals are a big part, or I wouldn't say part, or take part in my life. Because I also moved to the Netherlands with 2 cats. So these 2 cat companions, whether I wanted or not, they started taking part in my artistic practice. At some point, it was obvious that they show up in video work, that I have hairs all around my mixed media work, and even teachers accepted it as a usual part and usual media. So it was some years until I accepted this challenge, because as an artist, and it was my second study, I was really developing as an artist, because I previously studied economics and did photography, but this was deeper challenge, so deeper fine arts. So we expected to experience different medias. So I can say that in the last 7 or 8 years, I became really immersed in this human, non-human world, in a sense that I took different concepts in my research. For example, relationships between humans and non-humans, first through this relationship with my cats, of course. My parents also had a dog companion. Then I started researching how do we relate to them. We usually take them in different sense, as companions, as friends, sometimes as family, sometimes we anthropomorphize them, talk to them as our babies. So
I never do that to my dogs.
Yeah.
I never.
No, me neither. No, never. So these are all different layers that started peeling off as I was taking deeper research into this subject. And of course, it led me to my childhood, as usually everything leads to the childhood. Nothing new there. So, and yes, I grew up in a small city. I developed this relationship with animals through different pets we adopted, from streets or in grandfather's farm and so on. So it was indeed something embedded in my childhood and the way that I grew up. And finally, now to say that my art is dedicated to that side of the art that can be used as a tool to realize compassionate side of this relationship. I also use it as in my activistic work more than so it's just turned to be my main subject or my main theme of exploration in my artistic practice. Of course, through different medias. I work in video, in mixed media, so I used to work with dog hairs that I picked up from different dog salons, where they cut the hair of dogs. So it's a gentle practice. So different works have different dynamics and different energy, but the core is to research compassion, trust, what makes this relationship so strong. And it's important to say that we are built by this relationship, by relationship with others, not just humans, but non-humans as well.
Okay, so you're making me emotional, really, because I've
That's good. That's the point of the work. I didn't use the word, but
yeah, because
but
I've
sorry.
had no, it's okay. Two special dogs in my life that I've lost in the last couple of years. I've had them cremated. They're in urns in my living room, and they are family. I mean, we do have this relationship with pets that affects us. And I keep a picture of them from when these two from when they're puppies. It's here on my desk, and I miss them every day. I mean, they are family. So we do end up having this connection with those non-humans that sometimes can be more than we get with humans because they're so close. So I find it fascinating that you've built this art and this business around that connection. I'm kind of a little bit caught off guard just from this conversation. So my mind is kind of like going in all these different directions, and all the questions I wanted to ask or that we had talked about is like not what I want to talk about now, because I want to explore this because it can be very meaningful to see that relationship played out. Because my husband, he didn't grow up with pets in the house, so his parents aren't used to it. They've met our large dog, which is like 90 pounds, and my mother-in-law started like first she was afraid, but then she started feeding him apples and like tossing him little scraps and everything. So this connection can happen so quickly to where it can't always happen that quickly with humans, but with like pets and animals, they have this innocence about them, and they can capture you before you even know they're capturing you.
Yes.
So I'm kind of interested that I'm fascinated about this collecting the pet hair from grooming salons and create what kind of media do you create from that? Because I can tell you if my dog shed, I could send you like a box full a week. It's like they shed a little puppy a week. I mean, it's like really, it's like this is a puppy's worth of fur. So what kind of things do you do with that?
Yes, I appreciate that you opened up. So, and I always hope that this is what happens because yes, emotion is what is very important in the work because what we feel in this relationship to our pets, to that one we have built this gentleness, is indeed something that changes us every day. It brings compassion not just to them, to their species, but also to others. So it is very important thing, and I never mention it, or I rarely mention it, because I like when people mention it and others express their opinion and their emotions. So thank you for this. Well, I started working with this dog hair still when I was living in the Netherlands because there was something in the hair that was repulsive, because this hair is dead. You know, I dislike human hair. When you clean the bathroom, don't like it. I think nobody likes it. Also, well, we have now 4 cat companions. There's a lot of hair. It's different to clean. But yeah, I'm not fond of cleaning hair. But when it comes to working with hair, there are many layers. So it's a material, it's a resource first that in some cultures, non-European cultures especially, is still used as a valuable resource to create clothes, to create soles for the shoes, or even blankets. So when we think of dog hair, it's also more, it's warmer than hair of than wool, I read. So through all this research, I came to love this material. I used to make different balls out of it, you know, felting, and it really helped me to work more with my hands in a tradition of old crafts, for example. But one of the works that I did is called Flags, and it's called Flags because it resonates with the freedom, I would say. And it reminded me of all dogs that I met in different shelters that were adopted, some were not adopted, some get to know what freedom means, what human love means, and some not. So it reminded me on this connection again. I have still some dog hair in my closet, so I'm preparing new work. But back to your idea, yes, there is one work, and it's more commercial based, but very professional, very personalized, sorry, that I'm preparing, and it's also on my website. It's called Memento. And it is related to special relationship of a person, human person, and a dog person or animal person. So you can send me dog hair and some other objects, you know, and I create memento out of it. So it's sort of a memorabilia of the special relationship. Yes.
When my first boxer passed away, Wyatt, I got him when he was 12 weeks old, and then he ended up with degenerative myelopathy, which is like ALS in humans. And I built off of our deck, I built like an L-shaped deck with rubber mulch in it for drainage and fake grass because he ended up in a wheelchair. So that way we could just wheel him out, and then he wouldn't try to get him up and down the stairs into the yard, so he could actually still enjoy life. And but in his urn, when I got him, the breeder gave me a tennis ball that was his mother's. And as he started chewing as a puppy, I took it away so that he wouldn't chew it up. So that's in the urn with him, his tennis ball from when he was a puppy. And in Uli's urn, which is the other boxer, we lost her almost a year later, ended up with the same disease, degenerative myelopathy. Her first collar's with her in her urn, the first collar I ever bought her. And for her urn, we were able to find a 3D printer, and we took her and got 3D photographs taken of her. So her figurine on top of her urn is actually her.
Okay. Yeah.
Quite amazing that we were able to do that.
Yes.
And that connection with animals, yeah, it's like we can connect. We travel, and when we travel, I know we're not supposed to do this, but we see a stray dog or a stray cat, we always end up going to the store, buying cans of tuna and feeding the cats, or buying stuff to feed the dogs. Because yeah, some of them don't know that human love, or don't know that, like you said, you go to the shelter and they don't know that human connection. And our boxer that we have now, we adopted her. She was a year old, and she was from a rescue because it was a bad situation where she wasn't fed regularly and she was bought to be bred. And but we were able to get her about 2 years ago, and now she's doing great. And I'm glad we have her. We love her. But yeah, it's this connection with animals is just it's great. I can't imagine not having pets, or those 4 little
No.
friends that companions. how with all this going on, I know this. I'm going to step away and get away from this emotional thing for a minute, so my mind can refocus because I have all these emotions going through myself right now because of this conversation, and I'm sure we'll get back to it. But how do you? Because we do want to talk a little bit about project management, how you started the business during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep track of all your different projects? I mean, how many times, I'm sure you probably have several on the go at one time. How do you keep track of them all?
Well, I have to say that I was working, yes, in a company when COVID started, and then at some point I didn't plan to open my company immediately. So it took me a little bit by surprise, you know. So at some point, it was a lot of work in order to get to know how things work, especially law-wise, and what is this business owning?
Yeah.
What is that actually? And I still feel a little bit distanced from this term because I'm self-employed and I'm the only one employed in my company. So when I started, it was quite low and it was quite quiet concerning the projects because I also am working on different projects that are just happening according to my schedule and they are not produced for any exhibition. You have to keep your artistic practice alive and sustaining it. So it was only recently that I got different little small projects that I was wondering how to manage it all. So I got into different books and I'm very curious about how people actually do it, because sometimes indeed it seems impossible for me to have family, to run a business, to earn enough, to still pay attention to marketing and to all these different things that are actually running business. But what helped me a lot is that prior to starting my business, I was already as an artist working in different areas, because as an artist you are a small entrepreneur, though you don't earn as much basically, but there are many areas one has to keep an eye on, from applying to different grants or residencies, writing all the time, and most of the time you receive no's and you hope for yes, but it's still a lot of the work to produce the work, to eventually show it, and so on. So some of tools that I use, for example, really practical tools that I use for management is these mind mapping that Tony Buzan created. So usually on Sunday evening, this is really practical matter. On Sunday afternoon, evening, I take a paper and I write everything down in this mind map for this week. And then every day, every morning, I create another map for that morning. I'm still exercising to put less than 7 assignments on it. And so sometimes I succeed, most of the times I fail. So, I shift assignments from one day to another day. But as everything else, it's a process. Another thing is also that in this mind mapping, I use this criteria, how urgent or important things are to be done. So this is something that I started doing just this year, really seriously. Before that, I didn't have such a need to organize my time in that sense. Well, of course, I worked in a company and then I knew when I came back home what I would do that day. But 24 hours are not always enough when you're self-employed.
No, it's
so
not.
you do. Yeah, so in the beginning you do everything by yourself, and hopefully soon enough I will just delegate some of this to associates, to colleagues and co-workers. Yes. Does this answer the question?
Yeah, I like that
Mhm.
because you're honestly in the 2 years I've been interviewing you, you're the first person that uses mind maps to keep track, which is an interesting way to do it, and it is a way to keep brainstorming, keep your projects, understanding what the outcomes
Mhm.
are going to be of your projects and your deliverables are. So I like it because it
Mhm.
is something new that I know I haven't talked about on my podcast.
Mhm.
So it is kind
Yes.
of it is cool. Do you also like use a calendar? You keep stuff in your calendar, I assume, like deadlines and
Yes.
due dates. How do you
Yes, I
tie that into your mind maps?
I actually do, Anthony.
How do you tie that to your mind maps? How do you relate that to your mind maps?
Oh, yes, this is a really good question because indeed, if there is, I've heard, but I haven't tried some new programs where you can literally connect different tools in one. Still haven't used such, but I had a long period of shift from paper to digital agenda,
Yeah.
and it's still kind of struggle for me. I'm a very, I like tangibility and I like to touch things, to see
Mhm.
things, and sometimes I use two calendars. No, three, I would say. I have I have one on my wall which is for the whole year with main things what I would like to happen. Then I have one paper one on my wall for each month, like important calls and talks and such things, deadlines. And then I have also my agenda with all this in my phone. Yes, so I try to, it's also sometimes overwhelming to use more of these, but for now, it makes me keep going on this. I hope I can just use one, but I don't know when it's going to happen.
You're in your first year, and there's one of the first people I interviewed a couple years ago. She still uses file folders and she still uses whiteboard, and that's fine. I
Mhm.
mean, when you're as long as the important thing is that what you're using works for you.
Yes, and occasionally, of course, there are more details. Occasionally, of course, I create a big, you can't see it, it's a little bit on this over here, but I use really huge paper and I do these huge boards without really in the beginning thinking of what I need or what I would wish, but I just write down on these mind maps actually on a huge paper. And then I add some things and see how I can, make schedule or agenda, or whether it's connected to a certain month or a year, but in a way that it makes sense and in my mind and that I can navigate.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's about trying different tools. It's not, you know, you have to keep on trying. If something works better, then
Mhm.
you shift. But indeed, with different projects and different attentions, I also use different folders on my computer. Well, yeah, different things.
So, what made you feel like you were ready to do this, to start this business? Coming up in
Mhm.
October, you're not working now, but what was like, okay, instead of getting another job, what was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go forward with this.
Mhm. I don't think if we can ever be ready. Indeed.
No, I agree, but
Yes.
I think if you wait till you're ready, it will never happen.
Yes. Yeah. What happened in the moment, I think before COVID crisis started, that I already felt, or even earlier, I knew it, when you know it, that
Yeah.
things will work for some time, but that you will eventually get to the point where you will feel just the same or very, very similar as you felt with your previous job. And this is how I felt before starting this job, before COVID. So you just come to the point where you see that there is no development, and being honest to yourself, you can fake for some time, fake others, and keep doing your job the best you can, but you actually start to get irritated with the idea of starting something new. And eventually this happened for me as well. It was a surprise that crisis started, that I was laid off, and it meant that I don't have any financial support. I had only some savings. So as I started looking for a job, of course, I couldn't find it. It was a hard situation for everyone. And I decided that I'm gonna try to get this governmental support for self-employment. And finally, I did get it, but I think 6 months after I applied. So first I got rejected, and then I wrote a 12-page complaint. And eventually I received the money. So when I started, I didn't think so much about what I can sell and how I can earn. I was very occupied with learning how to do things.
Yeah.
Though I studied economics, that was a long time ago, and it was some practice in this business matter was missing that time. I don't know how it is now, but I actually didn't know how things work when you start a company, starting from marketing, setting up your company legally, where to go, whom to ask. So it took some time to get to learn this. Eventually it happened, and as I said, I wasn't ready, but when it happened, I got it, and I started working on different ideas and started shifting, in a sense, to see how what I already know, what I've already been doing, all this knowledge and previous professional experiences in different companies, I can now embed in my little company. I'm still learning. For now, I have just a few prints on my website, but I'm developing new products, and everything takes time, as you know.
Yes.
Time and money, of course.
Time and money. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
money.
And as you grow, as you learn, then, you'll change, you'll do more. But
Yes.
what's important, I think, is that you found a way to take your passion and take things that are important to you and create this business around it. And
Yes.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I still thinking about this Memento project and how you're working with, how you work with pets. And it's not only, you take this passion, but you're taking something that can be so meaningful to people and giving them something back. So it's not like only I'm going on, I'm buying a product, I'm buying a service, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something cherishable as well.
Thank you. Yes. I would say that this holistic approach to my actions is also what is and how I'm building this journey, because I couldn't separate private life and professional life and say I am this persona in this part of my life and this persona in this part of my life. Indeed, this was a long journey, not just in a sense of opening my company, but it was a long journey of getting to know myself, as Socrates said, getting to know what is your mission, what is your passion, what, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, what would you do even if you knew that you would fail? It's happening already, and it would be beautiful to create work and share it with people and still have sustainable living.
Yeah.
So it is built about these concepts of trust and sharing and compassion, and it's developing all the time. Of course, for an artist, it makes it is a trouble to think about things in a way. How can I sell it?
Yeah.
It's trouble, and sometimes I think that I don't have to do it. I just do my work. Eventually, some work is more conceptual and more for gallery exhibitions and museums. And some lines of the work, like these prints, are more available in my shop or gonna be more reachable for everyday humans. So it is again finding a connection between low and high art as well, but also between everyday humans and artists, about exactly exchange what you said. So it's not what we can say usual traditional company where you sell something and you receive money, and it's not something that I would like to do, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took, when I started the podcast and I started my consulting business a couple of years ago, the podcast was originally titled Project Management for Small Business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was putting out this persona of this professional podcast, which is great. And, that's what I try to do. Eventually, it organically went from just talking about project management to talking about the entrepreneurial journey as well. And then I'm very passionate about my being a Harley rider, being a biker. And that's why, and, I have piercings, I have tattoos, and I always try to hide that. And then I'm like, I just really can't do that anymore. So then I decided to rebrand to the Biker PM to kind of like, and my logo has me on my bike in it, and just to kind of show, you have to. Sometimes it's best, and you're more comfortable doing something when you are your true self in doing it.
Did you say sometimes it's best, or?
Sometimes it's best, and you're more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
doing something when you're your true self
Yes, I
and
think
doing
it's
it.
always best. Well,
Yeah,
of course, not in a sense that best doing in things that we are true to ourselves, but in a sense that indeed, in the truest possible way, that we have been working on our, well, less attractive maneers. Of course, we all have it. And at some point, you can't go outside and just throw it at people. Everybody is struggling with some things. But indeed, it is about opening up. And nowadays, vulnerability is very trendy. So
yeah,
we all have some ups and downs, but in the end, it is about showing that it can be done in different way. It is not what system has created for us to be our manifesto. We create our own manifestos. And the other day I read on a shirt in a restaurant, it says, "Wake up, dreamer." What? A wake up dreamer? I like to keep on dreaming, and working on that dream. But it says, "Wake up, dreamer. There are things to be done that haven't been done by you." Something like that.
mhm.
So, yeah, working on project management, why do we all have to look the same? use
Yeah,
use the same rhetorics and look the same. Indeed, this is something that sometimes people ask me, how come you studied economics and arts? Well, why not? Who says that we can't be creative and be also whatever economics mean, make money? Yes, it's been done. Let's finish with this paradigm of poor artist. Those
yeah.
days are gone. We don't want to support that idea anymore. So nobody wants to support that idea. Well, so things can be done in different ways. And I think it is a responsibility towards ourselves to keep on searching how to do things, how to learn, how to stay curious about things.
Yeah, you don't have to have just one interest. You can have
Mm-hmm.
several interests. I Passion of mine besides project management and besides my bike is writing. And I've always wanted to write a novel. I've always wanted to write. And I was always afraid to. I couldn't always come up with a story. And then in 2019, I published a fantasy novel, of which I
Mm-hmm.
have like 4 books planned out for the whole series. And I'm on the second book now. It's not it's different. It's a creative side of me that I like. So you can have like your
Yeah.
economics and your artist side. I mean,
Yes.
you can do it. And what's
I
wrong with
mean,
that? There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
that.
I mean, we have two parts of our brains and
Yeah.
they work on different assignments. So why not just accept and work on this connection
Yeah.
more than we
Yeah.
did before? Yeah, exactly. And it's good not to identify, I don't identify only as an artist. Sometimes I'm not an artist. Sometimes I'm just a woman playing with my cats and I
Yeah.
forget about my arts. Sometimes I'm just cleaning my house and I'm very angry. So that's also one of my personas. I mean, there are different personas, and I think it's good not to get identified with totally with each one of them, but also to shift. It's just more healthy and more interesting.
It is. It is. So before we end, go ahead and tell us if people want to find out more about you and find out more about your
Mhm.
your business, where can we go to do that? Give us those details and we'll put them in the
Yes.
show notes.
Yes, thank you. Well, first you can read more about my crazy dog hair work and other animal collaborations on my website, which is ivanafilip.com. And as well, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under the name Ivana Filip Studio, and also on LinkedIn as Ivana Filip. So that's for now. That's all social media for now that
For
I
now.
can take.
I know it's all these people that are on all these other things. I'm like, I can't do it all. I mean, I
Yeah,
have,
no.
I have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I think that's about all I can handle and keep track of.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, well, concerning those, also you asked me about project management, and I was thinking about using different softwares, different applications to merge all these social media and project management. So maybe you can share your experience later with me. But it just becomes too big for me. It becomes overwhelming. So I just decided to take it slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ivana. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for getting me emotional about my dogs. It's been great
Thank you
talking
for
to you.
sharing it. Yes. Thank you very much and all the best.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.